So, continuing the season review series, we are continuing today looking in the Metropolitan Division as we are taking a look at the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes had a really nice season last year, continued a wonderful campaign, a bunch of jerks started by Don Cherry himself in around December last year, and the Carolina Hurricanes ran with that all season. They had the storm surges, and they made it to the conference finals in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and they were hoping to build off of that this season. We'll be talking about that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and want to see the rest of this season review series, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below, and let's take a look at the bunch of jerks from Carolina. So the Carolina Hurricanes had a very impressive season, like we just talked about. A team that doesn't normally make the playoffs, but when they do, they go on some pretty solid runs. And remember, a couple years back in 2005, 6, they ended up winning the Stanley Cup, and they had not made the playoffs in a long time before then. Well, the Carolina Hurricanes made the playoffs once again last year and went on a pretty solid run, going all the way to the Eastern Conference Final to lose to the Boston Bruins. So, the Carolina Hurricanes coming into this year, the expectations were high. We saw some of their really young players start to develop and become superstars down there in Carolina. A very small market team, but they really grew their name there in Carolina, going deep in the playoffs. Some household names there now in Carolina, guys like Jacob Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, and the superstar center, Sebastian Aho. The Carolina Hurricanes were hoping to continue that success here in year 2 under the campaign leadership of Rod Brind'Amour, the head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. And it looked pretty promising for the Hurricanes this year that they could get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs. So looking at the record for the Carolina Hurricanes this season, they went 38, 25, and 5 on the season. That's good enough for 81 points in the NHL and a playoff spot. Their goals for and goals against. Goals for this season, 222 goals this season for the Carolina Hurricanes. That's good enough for 14th in the NHL, so a little bit above average in that category. Their goals against, really impressive this season. 193 goals against this season. That is the 6th best in the NHL, and a lot of that has to do with Rod Brind'Amour's system. Not to mention that really strong D-core that they have really started to develop there in Carolina. And not to mention the goaltending, which has been known to be a little bit spotty. They don't have a superstar goaltender there in Carolina. Kind of a goalie carousel every season. But they found a way with the goaltending tandem that they have right now. And it's been paying off for the Hurricanes. Not to mention 6th best goals against in the NHL. Looking at the top point producers for the Carolina Hurricanes this season, you got Martin Necas, who had 36 points, a very nice breakout season for Necas. Dougie Hamilton, 40 points on the year for Hamilton. Andrei Svechnikov, the budding star there in Carolina, 61 points for the young Alexander Ovechkin there in Carolina. Teuvo Teravainen, 63 points for Teravainen. Another great year for him there in Carolina. And leading the way, no surprise here, is Sebastian Aho with 66 points for the Carolina Hurricanes. So the Hurricanes, once again, you're seeing some of these guys, Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen, and Martin Necas, who has been playing very well with the Charlotte Checkers over the past couple of years. It's nice to see him in the NHL and thriving. He's really had a great season this year and probably should be more in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. Now, again, there's so many great candidates. It's hard to keep him in that conversation with just so many great players there. But Martin Necas has really been a very underrated player this year down there in Carolina. If he's up in Toronto or Boston, he's definitely going to be getting more recognition. But in Carolina, he stays a little bit under the spotlight, a little bit out of the spotlight, which is probably better for him and his development. But he is really having a great season for the Carolina Hurricanes. Looking at some of those prospects and the younger guys to look forward to in the future for the Hurricanes, you've got Sebastian Aho, who is still very young. Teuvo Teravainen, again, still very young as well. Martin Necas, who we just talked about. We saw a couple of young guys also step up in the bottom 6 for the Carolina Hurricanes. Guys like Morgan Geekie, who had a very nice season, and an unbelievable last name as well, not to mention. He had a couple of really good games with the Carolina Hurricanes in his stints with the Hurricanes this season, and he also played very well with the Charlotte Checkers down in the American Hockey League, and so did Julien Gauthier, who is the brother of Frederick Gauthier. So, again, some really great promising players down there in Carolina. They still have some of those defensemen. We kind of want to see what Jake Bean is. He really hasn't developed quite yet. Again, he is still fairly young, and he is a defenseman. Might take him a little bit longer to develop it at the NHL level, if he ever does develop at that level. But the future is still there for a guy like Jake Bean as well. And we'll see what happens with this Hurricanes team. They've still got some very young, good core players like Slavin, Aho. Like, it's kind of, it's pretty solid there. The only questions really for the Carolina Hurricanes is that goaltending, and it was a little bit shaky at points this season. Again, overall, you look at the goals against, one of the best in the league, so it's hard to really nitpick this team, but again, really solid season for the Hurricanes, and it would have earned them a second consecutive spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we'll see what happens with the Hurricanes moving forward. I think they look pretty solid going into the summer. I don't believe they have any big pending restricted free agents either. So we'll see what happens with the Hurricanes. But again, a small market team that is continuing to make the playoffs, and that's going to keep a fan base and the long-term future of the Hurricanes intact. Not to mention they have some unbelievable uniforms as well. Their new away jersey, their new home jersey, as well as the old logo that they still continue to use in that red jersey. Really nice jerseys for the Carolina Hurricanes, really rebranding the team and starting to find some success. So that's it for this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And also, don't forget to check out the rest of our season review series as we start to wrap things up, where I believe we're in the final 10 teams here. So make sure to check those out as well. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.